You're listening to the DevSoc Dispatches podcast, a community-led series where we take you on a trip of our thought of the day. Each episode taps into the world of physical and mental health, which we then discuss to see how we can thread these themes into our everyday lives. Concise, actionable, down-to-earth topics that provoke thought and meaning without the drama. Stay wavy.
Welcome to another episode of the DevSoc Dispatches podcast. We're talking about executive coaching with our head of self, John Hazan. John, welcome to another episode talking about coaching. How's it going?
Hi, Alex. All good. All good. Delighted as ever to be here, part of the Dispatches.
Great to hear it. And as ever, we'll jump straight into it. So the first question I've got for you is, what is coaching and what is executive coaching specifically?
Absolutely. Good place to start. There are different forms of coaching. We hear a lot about life coaching, but as you said, we're here to talk about executive coaching. So executive coaching, as the name suggests, focuses more on the business side of life, which means that more often my coaching clients are corporate at various different levels within that structure. And the topics we embrace are to do with work. But as is so often the way, rarely can you separate work from life. So you might end up doing both. So it's a little bit of a misnomer, really, to separate them. But for the sake of today's chat, we're talking about executive coaching. And what is that exactly? There are many definitions of coaching. Some people talk about facilitating performance, learning and development. Others talk about unlocking a person's potential to maximize their own performance. It is, to all intents and purposes, a process, a coactive process, which means two people of equal standing to find the personal solution to a topic of their choice. The key words for me, what does that actually mean? That means that as a coach, I don't have to know anything about your area of expertise. I can come in and sit and talk to you on a one-on-one basis and explore a personal solution to a topic. So you might have an issue at work, and we'll come on to the areas of development, I'm sure, a bit later in the chat, but you might have an area that you want to focus on. I don't necessarily need to understand your industry to be able to guide you through a conversation and find a solution that works for you. And this is what I love about coaching. There's so much general advice out there. So you can pick up a book that's written by somebody else that's an expert in their field. You can download an app, you can talk to a friend, but what you're always getting is their viewpoint, their advice, their experience, which means it's more almost of a mentoring. And we'll probably talk about this a bit later. That's more of a mentoring relationship. What I love about coaching is I'm not imparting anything of my personal knowledge and experience necessarily, unless you ask me to. I am listening to you on many different levels and trying to suggest to you that you find a solution to the problem using your own resources, your own solutions, your own experience. And that way, you're more likely to find a solution that works for you, and you're more likely to achieve your goals, to achieve your personal development and succeed in that, rather than become frustrated because it didn't work for you. So that's coaching in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a segue here, but very definitely related. It's almost like if somebody comes to you with a problem, very often the worst thing that you can do is give them a direct answer to that problem. Instead of doing that, we should be helping people to find the answer for themselves and pointing them in the right direction of answers, rather than, this is the problem, you need to do this. Because very rarely people actually are able to do that. They need to learn and follow their own processes in their own head to make understanding of it. I think that's a relevant point. So, I mean, why should we use coaching?
Yeah, very good question. Why on earth would we use coaching? I think it's very interesting. Your point actually is a great one, Alex, about doing it for ourselves. And often, although not exclusively, coaching clients are further on in their careers. So maybe they've had a series of learning experiences, of developmental experiences or programs, and either succeeded or failed. And they realize that general training isn't enough, that they want a more specialized, personalized approach. So they will approach a coach. We look at 4 areas typically of coaching development. There are skills where a client might want to acquire or improve their specific skills or abilities. There's performance, which is often a very common theme, where a client wants to change an aspect of their behavior or remove blockages to their performance, thereby leading to improved performance. There's developmental changes, where their objectives are probably more focused on their own personal needs rather than the needs of the organization. So how am I going to develop for my career, for my family life, whatever it might be? They want to develop an understanding, and so you can explore that through coaching. And then you can also, which we're seeing a lot more of recently, given the turbulent times we've just come through, transformational coaching, which sounds pretty dramatic, and in a lot of cases it can be. It's where you really have reached the end of a road and you want to transform into a new area of your career, a new way of living, a new form of behavior, and that can be hugely impactful. So we can develop, and that's the goal, as ever with coaching, is for meaningful behavioral change. So you work with a client over a number of sessions, a program, or a period of time to help them develop. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a process of gradual change. We talk about kind of understanding, awareness, leading to change through practice. So again, we've already talked about in earlier podcasts about self-awareness. That is something that I often do with my clients as a starting point on a process of change. Once you understand where you're starting from, you can achieve great things. Once I understand what the blockages are, I might never have thought about this before, but through a coaching conversation, I realized that there are blockages or resources that I can use to unlock my potential and improve my performance. And then over time, with practice comes change. And then in some cases, you can have a coaching relationship with your coach for years. I'm not a massive fan of that personally, but I mean, you can do, where your coach becomes an ongoing part of your career development or your personal development. And some people can stick with their coach for a long period of time to achieve that change.
That makes sense. I think I've got 2 brief points. One we discussed earlier, and one is kind of a little bit of a broader brush thing. I think we touched on that one first. Is, can people benefit from coaching who aren't using it in a specific business environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as I mentioned, there's kind of 4 areas there, and your skills or performance or development can be in any area. So I do a lot of career change coaching, but equally, and it's interesting talking to the DevSoc audience, who I know have got a very strong, evolved sense of physical self as well. You can be undertaking a process of physical change. Athletes are the prime example, aren't they? Where we now see professional coaching alongside physical coaching for pro athletes. And mindset, state of mind, undoing blockages can help tremendously in that area as well, and finding their own personal coping strategies, resilience, all around that area as well. So yeah, it's got a huge variety of options.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something. You mentioned something there that was, it's almost like you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to have a physical fitness coach. Everybody can benefit from having a physical fitness coach, and the same goes here. It's exactly applicable. So, I mean, what's the difference between coaching and mentoring? It's something that you touched on previously. If you could just expand a little on that.
Yeah, and it's a good question, because you get a lot of misunderstanding around this point. Often people might be far more familiar with the concept of mentoring than they are of coaching. So what's the difference? Yeah, good question. So I talked at the top of this conversation about coactive, about two people on an equal level. The coach is helping unpack a conversation, helping explore options, future progress and development, but they're doing it through a process of listening, questioning, summarizing, reflecting. They're not imparting personal knowledge, experience. Like I said, I don't have to come from the same industry as you do to help you as a coach. That's not to say that it doesn't happen, and sometimes you can blur the lines, but for the simplicity of this conversation, let's just suggest that the mentor comes to a conversation from a different point of view. So they're bringing their experience, their knowledge, their understanding, and you as a mentee are going to them for that experience, knowledge, and understanding, specifically to ask direct questions around, how did you unpack this? How did you resolve this situation? What skills did you use to help yourself in this career set, or indeed this personal setting? Whereas a coach is more likely to flip that onto the coachee and say, how did you unpack this situation? How did you resolve a situation like this in the past? The coachee isn't relying on my knowledge of their industry to get to their personal solution.
Yeah, that makes sense. John, thanks for that. I think with all of these, we like to keep them nice and short. I know we could talk about it for days on end, but we'll call that there. Thanks again for sharing your insights on that, and look forward to recording and listen to the next ones with you.
Great, Alex. Thanks for inviting me along. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you're interested in finding out more about DevSoc's executive coaching pillar, head over to www.devsoc.shop/coaching and take a look. That's www.devsoc.shop/coaching. Stay wavy.